Buenas noches a todos. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this very Spanish episode of Three Wine Men. My name is Richard. I'm part of the Three Wine Men team, and tonight we are in northwest Spain, in the region of Castilla y León. So Tim, our host, hi Tim, was tasked with tasting through some 44 wines from the region, and has selected 6 of his favourites for tonight's event. We are joined by representatives from these 6 wineries, I will introduce now in tasting order. So first up, hang on, I seem to have done something wrong. Okay, it's cool. Here it is. So first up, we have Juan Manuel de Mata. He is the director at GANCEDO, and his wine is the Herencia de Capricho 2020 from Bierzo. Hey, Juanma, give us a wave.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks very much. Second, we have Rafael Somonte, and he is the winemaker and director of DOMINIO de Toro, and his wine is the Cepas Viejas. And it is actually, it says 2019 in your tasting sheets, but it is actually, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but it is the 2017 instead. Unfortunately, the 2019 was held up in customs this week, so we've had to have a bit of a last minute request from the importer who's really very kindly sent us that one. After that, we have Pablo Gonzalez. He is the owner at VALTRAVIESO. Hi, Pablo. So his wine is the Las Mamblas 2020 from Arlanza. We then have Fernando Mayo Ferran, who's the winemaker and director of CAMBRICO. Hey, Fernando. His wine is the Villanueva Rufete 2020 from Sierra de Salamanca. We then have Pedro Martin. He's a winemaker from Protos. His wine is the Protos 27 2020. Cheers, Pedro. And his is from Ribera del Duero. And last but not least, we have Laura Hoyos and Miguel Gonzalez. Laura's the export manager, Miguel the winemaker from Tres Pilares. And their wine, this is a mouthful, is the Mónica Fernández Oxidativa Gran Vino de Guarda La Seca. Now, quickly before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. I know a lot of you have already heard these details before, but for those of you who it's your first time, this is a live event, so please ask us, both Tim or our panelists, any questions that you have. You can do so clicking below here, and you click on the chat. Please select everybody, and then from the drop-down menu, and then you can ask any of our panelists any questions. And last but not least, we're going to be running a poll towards the end, so please get involved. Let us know which one you like the most. So, Tim, I'm going to hand it over to you as the expert, and take it away. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard. Welcome, panelists, and welcome, tasters. First of all, I hope everybody got their wines. I think a couple of people had broken bottles, for which we apologise profusely. But I hope that most of you have got all of your wines, and indeed that the rest of you have got nearly all of them anyway. It's a fantastic opportunity tonight to talk about 6 really interesting wines. And I'd like to thank Castilla y León for letting me choose the wines that I wanted to show and the wines that showed best in the tasting. I thought before we begin, just a little overview of the region, and some of you may know a little bit about Castilla y León. We're really here in the heartland of Spain. I suppose you could call this quintessential Spain in a sense, and that's me and my kitchen tasting the wines. And this is really old Castile. I mean, the name Castilla y León that we're going to talk about now is the name of an autonomous region. It's one of 17 autonomous regions in Spain, and it's actually the largest of all those 17. Now, slightly bizarrely, it was formed by joining Castilla and León in 1983. So that makes it sound as if it's quite a modern region, but in many ways, it's the sort of center of historic Spain. Something I think the last time I looked, 11 of UNESCO's 1,154 World Heritage Sites are in Castilla y León, including the cities of Avila and Salamanca and that amazing cathedral in Burgos, if you've had a chance to go there. So this is a very large region, 94,000 square kilometers, and about 70,000 hectares of vines. Anybody who's ever been there will recognize what I'm about to talk about. It's a place of incredible vistas. It's, you know, horizons just seem to stretch for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. Occasionally you just sight a little mountain range somewhere, or a castle sitting on top of a hill. It's very, very dramatic, and you get this incredible movement of climate and of weather. So it's a very, very dramatic place to go. Not particularly full of vines. As I said, 70,000 hectares sounds like a lot. That's actually more than Rioja's got as a region to the north. But remember, 94,000 square kilometers. So it's a very big place where the vineyards tend to be quite spread out. Having said that, the majority of the DOs and of the wine regions are actually sort of clustered around or close to the Duero River. Duero River is obviously the same river as the Douro, which flows into Portugal, into the Atlantic, just sort of close to Oporto. And you can see that river basically running through it. And with all of those other rivers running into it, those are basically tributaries, effectively, or feeder rivers, if you like, feeding into the Duero. We're going to look at, there are 9 DOs overall. You can see them up there in different colors: Atlanta, Ribes, Bierzo, Cigales, León, Rueda, Tierra del Vino de Zamora, and Toro. We're going to talk principally about 5 DOs tonight, rather, because we've got 1 DO which is represented twice, and that is Bierzo. Bierzo, we're going to have both a white wine and a red wine. The others we're going to have tonight, obviously, are going to be 1 wine from Rueda, 1 wine from Atlanta, 1 wine from Ribera del Duero, and last but not least, a wine from Sierra de Salamanca. Sierra de Salamanca is actually what they call a DOP rather than a DO, but don't worry too much about that. Very, very exciting area, Sierra de Salamanca, and I'm delighted that we've actually got a wine from there in the lineup tonight. So 9 DOs. I'm just quickly going to mention Bierzo, because Bierzo is a slightly sort of strange case in a way. If you look at where it's situated within Greater Castilla y León, you can see that it's sort of slightly semi-detached. It's up there. It's actually closer to the Atlantic in many ways, yeah, than it is to, say, Valladolid, which is the the sort of center of the region in many ways. Bierzo is, you could make a case for saying it's really part of what we call green Spain, that it has more in common with the denominaciones de origen that you find in Galicia, particularly Ribera Sacra, which uses the same red grape variety, and that is Mencía, than it does with a lot of the DOs that are in the bulk of Castilla y León, which in most cases tend to be based on Tempranillo. Now, the idea tonight was we'd actually look at indigenous grape varieties. Now, if we wanted to be really challenging, we could have shown you all sorts of stuff, really. We could have shown you Albarín Blanco, we could have shown you Estaladinha, we could have shown you Mandon, we could have shown you Pirules, Rufete Blanco, Prieto Picudo, Juan Garcia. All of these you can find within Greater Castilla y León. But the dominant grape varieties are Tempranillo, 63% of the area under vine, and Verdejo. Most of the Verdejo obviously is planted in Rueda, which is 12% of the area under vine. So we had to really include those 2. Now, you're probably thinking it's a bit cheeky, isn't it, to include Tempranillo, because Tempranillo is grown all over Spain. Yes, it is. It's got different names all over Spain. It's probably got more synonyms, I think, than any other grape variety I've ever heard of. Every place has its own Tempranillo and has apportioned it its own name, if you like. But you can make a very strong case, and we don't know, for saying that Tempranillo or Tinto Fino, Tinto del País, or whatever you want to call it, is actually a native crossing to this particular region, the Castilla y León. The reason that we can say that with a degree of certainty is that its 2 parents, DNA analysis has shown, are Albion Mayor, which is the only white grape variety permitted in Ribera del Duero to make Ribera del Duero whites. Unless the vineyards were planted before 1982, when the DO was created, and its other parent, and believe it or not, this is its father its mother as opposed to its father, is a red grape variety called Benedicto. I've had the chance to taste Benedicto twice, actually, or 3 times now, twice in Rioja and once in Ribera del Duero. It's out there in the vineyard. So these 2 parents are there. And there's a pretty good degree of certainty, I would say, that Tempranillo or Tinto Fino, whatever you want to call it, is native to Castilla y León. So that's why we've included it in the tasting tonight. We'll talk about the other grape varieties as we go along. Some of these wines are obviously going to be varietal wines. That's to say they're made from single grape varieties, whereas others are blends. We'll talk about that as we go along. Okay, so those are the grape varieties we're going to be looking at tonight. I think we've talked a little bit about Bierzo. The other thing I would say about this area is that with the exception of Bierzo still has high bits that go up to 800 meters. Parts of Castilla y León have some of the highest vineyards in Europe, outside Switzerland, I would say, or alongside Switzerland and bits of the Alto Adige. There are vineyards in Ribera del Duero, which are up at 1,100 meters. That's pretty high, if you think about it. The other thing you get here is this extreme climate. Somebody once described the weather, I think it was in Castilla y León, it might also apply to La Mancha, I think, as 3 months of winter and 9 months of hell. It can be very, very, very hot in summer in Castilla y León. You can easily get up to 14 degrees. I think when the so-called Filomena, which was a very, very deep snowfall and snowstorm, which blocked Madrid for a few days, actually, early in 2021, in January 2021, I think temperatures then got to below minus 20 degrees. In January 2021. So it's an area of extremes with diurnal variation. It's a place that is quite tough in many ways in which to grow grape variety, to grow grapes, and we'll hear about that as we go on tonight. A lot of these DOs that we're going to be discussing tonight, these denominaciones de origen, are comparatively young. Rueda is probably the oldest of the lot, 1980, and that's, you know, since then, some of the things we're going to look at tonight, you know, Bierzo 89, Toro 87, Ribera del Duero 82, recently just celebrated last year its 40th anniversary. So these are young DOs, but remember, as I said, it's an ancient wine producing area. There's a village in Ribera del Duero called Baños de Valdearroz, and they found a mosaic, a Roman mosaic inside what was once a Roman villa, which had references to grape growing. So the Romans were definitely growing grapes in what is now Ribera del Duero sort of 2,000 years ago. And who knows, there might have been grapes grown even before that. Anyway, enough yakking from me, and let's move on to the first wine and bring in our first winemaker, who's going to be Juan Manuel. If you'd like to join us, it does say on your sheet Goldello, but it's not Goldello, it's obviously Goldello. And Goldello is a grape variety which is, nice to see you, comparatively rare in Castilla y León. The place it's grown and most famously really would be Valdeorras, and Valdeorras is obviously on the other side of the border over into Galicia. But Bierzo, about 30% of Bierzo's grapes are white, and those are principally Goldello, but also Palomino, which is obviously the grape variety of Jerez, and Listán Blanco, which you find in Tenerife, in the Canary Islands, and also Doña Blanca. And Doña Blanca is sometimes called Valenciana, in other words, something from Valencia. A little bit confusingly, Bobal is also sometimes called Valenciana in Ribera del Duero. So, I mean, don't worry too much about that. Let's get on to the wine. Okay, so Juanma, if you'd like to just tell us a little bit about your wine, where it's from in Bierzo, and just tell us a little bit maybe about high Bierzo and low Bierzo, the upper and the lower part of Bierzo, and how they differ, please.
Yes, bueno, thank you very much for this opportunity, Richard and Tim. Okay, we are Bodegas Gancedo. Bodegas Gancedo is a family winery, a round winery, and we contain 600 plots and 84 hectares in the hills on the Bierzo area. It's a bush vines always in our case, and in the case of the wine today is a century wine. If you want, later we can check the date of the born of these grapes, of this vineyard. I remember 2013, 2020 and 2013. And in this case, the name of this brand is Herencia del Capricho, 2020 harvest. And from the paraje La Salgueira. The paraje is named when the vineyard is a special land and a special place into the Bierzo traditional vineyards. The production in this case is from 3,000 kilos to 5,000 kilos per hectare. Depends of the year, weather, climate, etc. And always manual harvest in 15 kilos box. Okay. In this case, in this case, the grapes is selecting in sorting table and freezing the grapes for 12 hours at 4 degrees, obtaining concentration and aromas and avoiding crystallizations of the sugars. Then the staining and using a closed pneumatic press, a little press, with the sense of oxygen, only CO2. It goes into the steel tank for 24 hours and it's racked and transferred to the Bunbury barrels of 500 liters and 600 liters of the first year, the new oak. The brands like Taranzón and Chassin brands. After fermentation with yeast for 4 months, it is left for another 10 months or 8 or 10 months, more or less, for aging without yeast, only natural yeast, and vegan clarification with vegetables and gelatins. And this is the process of the elaboration, the vinification of this wine. And the more special thing is the Paraje La Salgueira. These vineyards is very difficult to find that and to keep these grapes.
Is it a single vineyard expression, this wine?
Yes, it's a single vineyard. In our documentation, if you want to check the year, you can check.
And so how high is this vineyard? Because Bierzo goes up to what, 800 meters, I suppose?
Yes, Bierzo is from 450 to 900 meters.
To 900.
Yeah? 900. Sorry,
okay, yeah.
Sorry for my English. In this case, in this case is 650.
650. And I think the thing about Bierzo is it's the most Atlantic of the regions in Castilla y León, really, in terms of its influence from the ocean, even though it's surrounded by mountains. On the west and the north side, you have the Cordillera Cantábrica. On the south side, you have the Sierra de Cabrera, and on the eastern side, you have the Montes de León. So it's sort of in a bowl, even though it's quite high, isn't it? And you do have that Atlantic influence, but remember, it's surrounded by mountains. I think this has got incredible structure. I don't know what you guys think tasting it, but I love the way I think the oak is really beautifully done. I wouldn't say it was new wood. And I think you could make a very strong case for saying Goldello is one of the great white grapes of Spain. I mean, I think we would probably include, I would probably include Xarel·lo these days, actually, I would say. I think Albarino and maybe Old Vine Viura and possibly Albio Mayor, but I think Albio Mayor is slightly less good. I think Goldello, of all of those grapes, is arguably the most structured, maybe with Xarel·lo, but I think it has more flavor than Xarel·lo from Penedès and Catalonia. I love this wine. I think this is delicious. I mean, I think we'd welcome your comments if anybody wants to chip in and say what they think. But I really like this wine. I think you were saying about 30% of Bierzo is white grapes. Is that right? And 70 would be Mencía.
Yes, more or less. In these years, this date is changing because the Goldello is improved at the moment. Is increased the plants and the plantations and investments. The origin of Goldello in Spain is in Bierzo. It's very important.
It's from Bierzo, okay.
It's in Bierzo. It's in the north of Bierzo. In limit with Asturias. Limit with Asturias on mountains. Here is the first plantation of Goldello.
So it went to Valdeorras after that, basically.
Yes, Valdeorras next step and Galicians next steps. Yes, is the origin of this variety. Yes.
and I think people are rightly saying that it's slightly creamy, it's nutty, which I like very much. But I think it's got that real estructura. You know, it's got backbone, and the backbone is extract and minerality, if you want to use that word, and acidity. I mean, Goldello has very good acidity. I think I like it very much for that reason. I think it's probably got more structure than Albarino. Albarino is a little prettier maybe on the nose and a bit more floral, but I think Goldello is a seriously good grape and underrated in my view.
Yes.
Any other comments about it? Everybody's liking it. Good. I'm glad everybody's liking the wine. Is it exported? Who imports it in the UK? Do you know?
Is for me a question, Tim? Yes.
Yeah, el importador.
Yes, we export to UK to importer. The name is Butinot. But
it goes to Butinot. Okay.
Butinot, yes. And in this case, in this wine, no, because at the moment Butinot don't get this wine.
I think it's delicious. Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing that wine with us. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. I think everybody has. I think it's fantastic value for money, and just to repeat, I really like the way you've done the oak. I think the oak is beautifully integrated into the wine, and that's not always the case in Spain. Let's face it. Okay, let's move on to another wine from Bierzo. Now we're going to go to obviously red wine, and this is going to be Mencía, and I'm going to bring in Rafael. Rafael, are you there? We've, I think, as Richard pointed out at the beginning, this was not the 2019, but the 2017. And the 2017, as many of you will know in Spain, was a hot vintage. It was a very hot vintage. There was frost in some places, particularly in Ribera del Duero and also in Rioja. Not the Rioja is in Castilla y León, or nearly. There's one little bit of Rioja in Castilla y León. Did you know that? One tiny bit, one vineyard, Hacienda El Ternero, which for historic reasons is part of Burgos, just with this one vineyard. Anyway, Rafael, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
We've got you. Nice to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you too. Thanks for inviting me or us, Dominio. So we are tasting today Cepas Viejas. Cepas Viejas is Mencía. It's a local variety from Bierzo. Already mentioned, but I think we are very, very lucky to have the 2017, because at the beginning we were tasting the 19, but due to the courier company, so something was wrong. But we are very lucky because we can see how the Mencía ages, because nobody or not all people has the opportunity to taste it. And I have here my 17, and it's fantastic right now. So
I think we're all enjoying it. And I think, as I said earlier, it's interesting that some of the 17s from some Spanish regions are quite powerful and cooked, but this is beautifully fresh. And I think it shows, as you said, how well Mencía ages. I mean, it's a complete cliche, but some people say, "Hey, Mencía is the Pinot Noir of Spain." I think it's a stupid thing to say. It's the Mencía of Spain. Just tell it, is Mencía? Was it originally planted in Bierzo, a little bit like Goldello, or was it from Ribera Sacra, or do we not know?
Look, I don't really know. I think the Mencía, Bierzo, as you mentioned before, Bierzo is very well located in the northwestern side of Spain and in Castilla y León, in the border with Galicia and Asturias. So the climate here is quite different than the rest of Castilla y León. That's they are in the central plateau and on upper sides. But here we've got a much fresher climate here with more Atlantic or maritime influence. So that's the key, because we plant, so we grow very well the Mencía. I think the variety itself was spread around thanks to the St. James Way, I think. So it's I don't know what was the first place where they planted Mencía, probably very close to any church around the St. James Way. But probably the most famous place for Mencías is Bierzo. So we've got here quite a long heritage here. So apart from the St. James Way, we've had here for a long time. 2,000 years ago, the Romans. So Romans spread here the ways. So many techniques of agriculture. So we are in the area of Sil River. Sil River is a tributary of the Miño. So it's
we should just say that the Miño is obviously the river that separates Portugal from Spain. So the southern border of Rias Baixas and Ribeiro is basically, you know, is on that river. And again, it's interesting what you were talking about, grape varieties with this Camino, the Santiago, you know, the St. James's Way. The same, you often find the same grape varieties in Portugal and Spain on either side of the border, don't you? Just sometimes with different names. But that whole northwest corner of Spain, as you said, I think was very influenced by both the church and by pilgrims bringing grape varieties and seeds and cuttings and all sorts of things, I think.
Yes, of course. That's probably the key, the St. James Way and church. The thing is here, as Juan Manuel was mentioned before, we mainly plant right now, and the most famous varieties around the world right now from Bierzo are Mencía, firstly, and then Goldello too in Valdeorras. But we also have some varieties, some white grapes that our grandparents used to make, to put in the blend, like a co-fermentation of varieties with the reds, like Palomino or Doña Blanca, which we call here Valenciana. So just to soften or just to get the wine softer in the past. And look, you were mentioned the Pinot Noir. I think those kind of Pinot, the varieties like Pinot Noir and Gamay and this lighter and more fragrant and elegant, let's say, like much elegant, not so much powerful varieties are very well related with Mencía style. Here, due to the probably not the altitude, because we are, as Juanma was mentioned, we are between 550 and then 1,000 more or less. But the climatic influence of the Atlantic, the maritime influence. As long as the Bierzo is very well sheltered or very well protected by some mountains around, so we can enjoy like a kind of Mediterranean climate, not very warm, quite fresh, but some humidity all around the world, also all around the year, but mainly in spring and summer. So in winter, winter and spring. So we can have water enough, and then sunny days during the spring and summer, just to get ripen the grapes most every year. This 2017, as you were very well mentioned before, was the frost vintage, the big frost.
Frost and heat, really. It was it's a paradox, really, in that it's counterintuitive. It was both very hot, but there was this frost.
Yes.
Just tell us a little bit about the soils, because you know the meseta, that's that central Spanish plateau that we've already mentioned, where most of these vineyards are, not Bierzo, obviously. The soil types there tend to be sand if they're close to the river Duero, or clay and limestone. And this central Spanish plateau, there are two theories. One is that it was underwater, literally under the ocean, and the other is that it was a vast inland lake. Whatever the answer is, and I don't think we know for certain, you get a lot of limestone and a lot of clay there. Whereas I think the dominant soil type where you are tends to be slate, doesn't it? The pizarra.
Yes. I think the key component here in the soil is pizarra. We also have mainly there are two separate kind of soils here in Bierzo. Bierzo is like Rioja, let's say like that. We've got the upper Bierzo and the lower Bierzo. Lower Bierzo, it's around the village of Vilafranca del Bierzo. It's around 500 meters above the sea level. And then the upper Bierzo is above the village of Bembibre, where we are placed. We are one of the only wineries placed in the upper Bierzo. And I think the slate is overall mainly in the upper sides of Bierzo. Okay. The clay and the gravelly soils are on the lower sides. But I think Cepas Viejas, for example, 2017, that's the key, because it's a blend of most of the grapes coming from all the region, not just upper or lower, just a blend of them, because on the upper Bierzo you can get minerality and then fresher, more tension on palate, and then the lower Bierzo has probably bolder palate and maybe much riper fruit. So Cepas Viejas is a blend of everything, just looking for the balance of everything, mainly the acidity and the minerality, just looking for wines that mainly Dominio de Tares, our winery, is very focused on long-term wines, wines that can last for longer, not just fresh and fruity and simple wine that is very good. But our main target is long-term wines, as for example, Cepas Viejas. And talking about the wine, Cepas Viejas in Spanish means in English old vines. So it's a wine made with over 65-year-old vines, very long, so old bush vines, very low productive too, because they are very old. And everything is done here by hand, and with wild yeast for all the fermentations in Cepas Viejas and in all the wines that we make, included whites and rosés. And then the key here, probably, apart from the aging on French oak, we pay a lot of attention on bottle aging. DOMINIO is very focused on long-term wines, and we do aging in bottle for longer before to release the wines into the market. So I think that's the key, because the Mencía at the beginning is quite, let's say, spicy. Then after 3-4 years, it becomes very soft, very elegant, and has maybe flavors or aromas of complex forest floor, sometimes like truffle and kinds things like that, that complement or just balance the red fruit aromas from the Mencía.
I mean, I think this is delicious, and again, I think the oak is extremely well done. I mean, I really like the freshness of this wine, and at 6 years old, to me, it's still young. You know, and I think it's very interesting what you say, that it goes towards those sort of more forest floor, undergrowth, if you want to call it that, truffle world, that sort of really interesting mushroomy world, if you like, as it gets older. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mencía. I think Mencía is an underrated grape variety, and I think that Bierzo is a fantastic region. So I make no apologies for choosing 2 wines from Bierzo to do this tasting. So thank you, Rafael, partly for your excellent English and also for the way you explained the region. I think it was really interesting to hear from you, and I love that wine. It's fantastic and good value as well. It's amazing value.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, stick around because there'll be questions for you, I'm sure. Okay, we're going to move on to wine number 3 now, which is Arlanza. I'm going to bring in my friend Pablo. I'm lucky enough to taste with Pablo every year in Ribera del Duero, and I'm just about to publish my Ribera del Duero report on Monday night. So if you're watching Instagram on Monday night on my little Instagram channel, which is Tim Atkin MW, you can see me launch that at 6 o'clock in the evening. And funnily enough, last year, the person who made this, who was Ricardo Velasco, was my young winemaker of the year. I think he's one of the best young winemakers in Spain. Pablo, tell us a little bit about Arlanza, please.
Yes, okay. I'm going to introduce this small DO. It's very, very small. It's no more than 400 hectares of vineyard. Think about that. Maybe in 1950, probably this area was bigger than Ribera del Duero at this time. But at this moment, in 60s, probably exodus of people to the town. They really left the area, and mechanization arrives there, and most of the vineyards were removed. So we have only left part of the vineyards that was on the mountain, very, very small plots that was very difficult to get inside tracks and everything. So this is the old vines that we are able to get in this area. It's a small place, small area. The main river that runs the DO is the Arlanza River, that is getting later on to Duero. And it's 2 different parts of Arlanza. The valley, that it has more surface of vineyards, bigger plots, and the mountain. The mountain is, for us, is the most valued part of the DO Arlanza. It's in the area of Covarrubias, close to Santo Domingo, Silos. Amazing place, amazing, absolutely amazing. And the main thing is that we have very, very old vineyards in the area. During the last 5 years, we tried to rescue part of these vineyards because most of them were getting left because the wine growers, the owners, were passing over, and nobody was taking care of them. There was no people who was interested on taking care of these vineyards. So
just tell us how old the vineyards are, Pablo. The oldest.
Most of them are from 80 years to 100 years old.
Yeah.
It's an incredible place, and we tried to vote these plots, but it was difficult, but because there was no owners alive to transmit the possession of the assets, so it was difficult to get them. But in the end, after 5 years, we got about 65 different plots to get a global surface of 7.5 hectares. It's very small surface that we got, but it's amazing because each plot is absolutely different and really amazing. The main soil that we have there is basically alluvial soil with a lot of boulders on the surface, but we have also clay on the subsoil, and they are normally deep soils, but very with low fertility. It's very interesting that we have two important problems at this place about the altitude. We are located at about 1,000 to 1,100 meters.
Yeah,
and the main
high.
problems, very high, very high.
There'll be some of the highest vineyards in Castilla y León, probably the highest, wouldn't you say?
Probably, yes, probably, because in Castilla y León there's no vineyards at this altitude. So the main problems that we have is the climate. At this altitude, the climate, and at the north that we are located, the climate is very hard, very cold in winter. Frost is a problem continuously, and the second problem is the forest and the animals that we have around the vineyards that normally they like to eat the fruit. So normally yield at this place is very low.
You have to say that you don't like an easy life, because your vineyards at VALTRAVIESO in Ribera del Duero are in a very high part of Valladolid. The Valladolid is the hottest sub-region of Ribera del Duero, but yours are some of the coolest vineyards and the most marginal vineyards in Valladolid, aren't they, as well?
Absolutely, I agree, because well, this is one of the reasons that really we got in love with Arlanza, because it memorized us the place that we are normally working at Ribera del Duero, at this plateau at 950 meters. That is one of the highest vineyards in Ribera del Duero, and this place really allow us to transmit our knowledge of working in the hard conditions at high altitude with a very extreme climate, and it's great for us. So this is the reason that we look at this place and we try to elaborate different wines.
I think it's very interesting as well that the blend here, because this is a classic field blend, and you know, I've been writing a lot about this today, about old vineyards. That old vineyards were never planted as monocultures. They were not only were they not just, they were other things other than grapes, but they were always planted with different varieties. That people planted white grapes alongside red grapes. They didn't just plant one grape, which was Tinto Fino or Tempranillo or Albilla Mayor. They planted lots of things. And here in this vineyard, it's amazing. You've got Tempranillo, 90%, but then you've got what? Tell us more. What else is it?
We have a lot of different varieties. We have red varieties. Tempranillo is the main one, but we have also some Bobal, some Mencía, we have Garnats, we have Monastrell, but we have inside the plots of red vines, we have also white vines, as Albilla Mayor, that is the main one, but we have also some Viura, some Moscatel, some Castellana Blanca, Cayetana Blanca. It's very complex, but it's amazing because this complexity is giving the wine this importance, this character that really you are able to get in love with this complexity. Is due to the different varieties. But it was the style, as you said, the style of planting 100 years ago. So it was a mix of different varieties that were all of them planted together in the same. And believe me, the layout of the plots, it's amazing. There's no place to get a track inside. It's 1 meter in each between plants, between vines,
so
and there's no
densely planted.
Yes, absolutely. The concentration is great. It's amazing. So it's very difficult to work because it's very difficult really to introduce any kind of track. So difficult to work, but amazing the result that you are able to get inside.
Just tell us a little bit about the oak here. Are you using oak, older oak, presumably?
Yes, Yes, we use oak for aging the wine. Normally, we use French oak and three different size of three different volumes. We use 225 liters, 300 and 400 liters. And normally, in this case, for this wine, Mamblas, it's a blend wine because we're using the 64 different plots. One of them, normally we bottle by itself. It's a single vineyard wine that in this case, it's Cerro Cerezo. But normally we elaborate a village wine that is, in this case, is Mamblas, that it's the mix, is the blend of the different plots that we haven't chose to the Cerro Cerezo. So we normally elaborate three different wines, a white one, collecting the grapes from the different plots first, and later on we do the harvest for the red wine, and we elaborate a single vineyard with Cerro Cerezo and a blend wine, the village wine with Mamblas. That is amazing because the
so this is only your village wine. There's a level above this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I must say that I'm not supposed to taste your wines when I'm in Ribera del Duero, but we always taste the wines because I like them very much. I think they're fantastic. What a wine! I mean, I think that's just a delicious wine. We've had 3 fantastic wines so far. Arlanza, who would have guessed? Really, I think it's a little-known geo, but what a place! I mean, I think when it's good, that's just remarkable. So, and your winemaker, Ricardo, what a talent! I mean, he's super young, enthusiastic, but what a talent that guy is. He's brilliant. You're lucky to have him.
Ricardo joined us. Yes, 10 years ago, and I know that you are in love with him. So do I, really, because it's a special guy. He's really connected with me, and he's in love with the project. He's in love with the wines, and believe me that it's something that when we discover, both of us, probably at the same time, the Arlanza, we said, "Hi, Ricardo, we have to do something in this area because really, it's amazing." Think about that. Really, it's not so far from Ribera del Duero. It's about 45 to 50 kilometers far from Ribera, right? At the north. But it's absolutely different. Nothing similar in terms of fruit style, and really, it's amazing because the style of fruit that you are able to achieve in this altitude and in Arlanza is a fruit that we have never found any other place in Spain. Yeah. It's really very honest fruit, very direct fruit. But it's very precise. It's incredible. The style of this wine is something that we really are very comfortable because it's something similar that we try to express in Ribera del Duero. We are convinced that we have to bottle the landscape and we have to express the terroir. And the terroir that we have in Ribera del Duero is not as we have in Arlanza. In terms of altitude, is something similar. And in this case, it's the same. We don't want to manipulate the wine. We try to do very low macerations, very long macerations, but very gentle macerations, not to extract too much. We prefer to do an elegant wine, vertical tannins, thinking on lengthy, and with the elegance that this place can transmit us. Really, we're convinced that it's something different, very not well-known area, that when people is getting in and discovering the wines, really it's possible to get in love with it. It's very easy.
Okay, thank you very much. I enjoyed that wine very much. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did.
Thank you very much. Trying to Arlanza.
Please buy it. Do you have an importer in the UK?
Yes, we have an importer. It's Milestone. I think you know him, Miles Corris. You know
Miles
him?
Corris, yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
lovely.
Miles Corris.
Yeah,
it is.
Very good wine. Miles has got good taste. We like that. Okay, we're now going to move on to a bit of a rarity, which is Rufete. Now, I first heard about this region, which is a DOP, which is called Sierra de Salamanca, sometimes called Sierra de Francia, the French mountain, as it were, or French mountain range, from a Chilean friend of mine. And that Chilean friend of mine is Marcelo Retamal. Many of you will know Marcelo. He's probably the best winemaker, one of the 2 best winemakers in Chile, and he's actually growing, or he's bought some vineyards there, and he's making wines in this de Salamanca. And I tasted them this year in Rioja. They're really good. And he said to me, "You've got to try Rufete from the Sierra de Salamanca because it's amazing," and it really is. Now, I really like all of your wines, Fernando. I think last year we had a white wine, and you're back with a red wine. Tell us about Rufete Tinto and Rufete Blanco, and a little bit more about Sierra de Salamanca. Where is it? It's near Salamanca, obviously, but a little bit about the altitude, about the soil types, and a little bit about the history, maybe.
Okay, so Sierra de Salamanca is located in the south of the province of Salamanca. It's the same. The altitude starts from 400 meters and goes up to 900 meters. The soils, as you mentioned before, we don't have chalky soils. In the elevations of the West Mountains, the soil is slate and granite. In our case, we have this wine is coming from the vineyard where the soil is granitic soil with quartz. So the region, in the region, like all the wine regions in Spain, the wine was produced since Romans. So in our case, even before Romans, we have some lagares carved on the stones that are dated for more than 2,000 years ago. So the region, in the region, the wine has been produced for a long time.
And the Romans again, yeah?
Sorry?
The Romans again.
Yes, of course. And then Romans were everywhere. They like the nice places. Like
we have a lot to thank the Romans for, right?
Yeah, they like good life. So also French, because they repopulated the region in the 11th century. And so that's why that's where we find the relationship between our variety Rufete, red Rufete, and the ancestors of the Pinot Noir. And we found that by tasting, by flavors, aromas, also the characteristics of the grapes, but definitively by DNA analysis that shows some connections with the ancestors of the Pinot. So that's why the region...
Sorry to interrupt. You're saying that Rufete is related to Pinot, you think?
Yes, it's related to the ancestors of the Pinot. So okay. We found that the markers of the DNA have more markers connected to Pinot than with any other variety that is described. Yeah. So also the origin of the region really is not called Sierra de Salamanca. This is the name we gave to the DO because the region is called Sierra de Francia. Yeah. But we didn't want to have low discussions with the French government everywhere in the world, right?
Oh, exactly. Because you know what they're like, the French. You know, they'll be destroying tankers of wine before you know it.
So we decided to invent the name of Sierra de Salamanca because it's the mountains from Salamanca is where the region is located. So it's very isolated. It was very isolated for many centuries, and that's why we were able to keep the indigenous grapes like Rufete, Rufete Blanco. We have a very local clone of Grenache called Calabres. So all the varieties are local, and we started making wine, let's say, seriously looking for quality in 2000. That's when Cambrico project started.
And which other grape varieties do you have planted there? Rufete Blanco and Tinto are the main ones, are they?
And then there is a Tempranillo locally called Aragonés. It's a clone of Tempranillo. And then we have a clone of Grenache called Calabres. Yeah. These are the main grapes there.
It's interesting.
And then, of course,
it's interesting.
Then, of course, a lot of small.
Interesting what you say about granite. Yeah, this is on granite soils, and I think you can taste that in the wine. It's got a very different texture. Particularly to the Ribera wine that we're going to taste in a minute, which is more clay limestone influenced from Burgos. This has got, for me, I don't know what you guys think tasting it, but it's definitely got more acid and more structure and more grip. It tastes granitic to me. It tastes like a mountain wine. Again, I like this wine very much. I hope everybody's agreeing. Herbal, herbaceous. I don't find herbaceous. I mean, I know what you mean. But I think this is just wonderfully well structured and incredible personality. Does anywhere else grow Rufete Blanco or Tinto in Spain?
Not really much in Portugal. They grow Rufete, they call it Rufeta, or they call it also Tinta Pinheiro, which if you translate is Pinot Noir, Tinta Pinheiro.
Yeah.
So as long as I know, the Rufete was mainly in Salamanca region, in some other, not only in Sierra de Francia, but also a little bit in Ribera del Duero, but mainly focused there and also in Portugal.
Yeah.
But
how
this
far,
is a variety.
how far are you from Portugal, from the border with Portugal?
We are about maybe 50 miles only.
15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
50.
50.
50,
okay.
2 miles from the border.
But close enough to go to Portugal to have a cup of coffee or get your hair cut?
Yeah, the coffee is good there.
That's what they do in Rías Baixas. They actually go over the border to get coffee because the coffee's better.
Yeah, the coffee is very good. Yeah, the one they have. So the thing is that for me, this variety Rufete needs altitude.
Yeah.
Because to express this freshness, it's very good to have cold summers. So unfortunately, we are not getting any more cold summers as we used to have maybe a couple of decades before. But still, we have many fresh nights that help us to maintain the freshness. Also, we have to harvest much earlier than before, just to achieve this.
You picked this in August, didn't you? You picked this in August?
Yeah.
August, yeah.
Yes. We are normally starting at the end of August, when traditionally harvest took place in October. But now we had to advance it a lot because of the warmer summers we are suffering. And also, it's not a big deal for us with the Rufete because the skin is very thin, so the tannins we extract are not much. So even if it is not completely ripe, we are able to get a very fine and well-balanced wine, even ripe, harvesting a little bit before. We need to take care. Some years we harvest too early, and the result was not so good. So it's not the case for this vintage. So
it's interesting.
Of course,
I understand what you're saying. It's really interesting because I think that it's not particularly tannic. That the structure of the wine comes, I think, from the soils. You know, that kind of amazing granitic minerality, if I can use that word again, but I hope you know what I mean. I slightly, I don't want to overuse the word, but I think that, it's interesting that the tannins are not massive, but I think they're certainly there. I mean, I like this wine very much. Obviously, that's why I chose it. But anyway, I think it's great. Thank you very much for sharing your region with us with such amazing words and passion. It's been fantastic talking to you again, as ever. Thank you. I love you.
Looking forward to see you around.
I'm coming soon. I'm on the way.
Okay.
Just tell us who brings your wines in, UK?
Yes, it's Bergman. Bergman is our importer.
Good. My good friend Alex Hunt. Right. Fantastic.
Yes, Alex.
Yeah, lovely guy. Right. Okay, let's move on to Ribera del Duero, which I've spent the last 3 weeks writing about. So I'm up to date on what's going on there. And we're now going to see Pedro, I think.
Yeah.
Pedro, are you with us? Nice to see you.
Hi.
Where are you?
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Are you in Peñafiel?
Yes. I'm in Peñafiel base, in the winery Protos. And tonight you are trying this bottle of wine. And this is the Protos 27 bottle of wine from the vintage 2020.
2020. Good.
That I'm going to introduce.
Well, we should maybe say at the beginning that Protos, Ribera is very lucky because Protos is the biggest producer in the region, but I think its quality is extremely good. I really do, and I think it's lucky that the biggest producer in Ribera is Protos, because it could be way worse. Look at Rioja. It's not.
We are very proud in the house to follow the aim of the beginners of Protos. Protos was founded 95 years ago, and the claim of the winery has been always, well, we say be first is our aim, but as an attitude to have the best wine possible. And always since 1927, people who founded the winery, their aim was to make a bottled wine with a brand name that in 1927 was not evident, to have the better quality to their grapes and the wine. The wine tonight, the wine you are drinking tonight is very special for us, for workers. It's like the Niña Bonita because was launched a few years ago at the occasion of the 19th anniversary of the winery, and we are very proud, everybody, of it, because it was crafted after several trials of well, we can see the first label of the winery.
On the left is the original label.
Yeah, on the left is the first branded name of the winery, 1927, and on the right one is the first vintage we launched 90 years ago. 90 years later, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
we should maybe say quickly, to interrupt, that Vega Sicilia was founded in 1864, and the next winery after that to be founded was Protos, what is now Protos, in 1927, after which this wine is named. And until really 1975, and the first vintage of Tinto Pesquera from Alejandro Fernandez, those were the only two wineries in Ribera del Duero. Ribera del Duero was known for claretes, for rosé wines, effectively, which were a blend of Albilla Mayor and Tinto Fino or Tempranillo. So Protos is a very, very important bodega in the history of the region, really. You know, those two bodegas, 1864, Vega Sicilia, and Protos, 1927, were what carried Ribera really through to 1975 and Tinto Pesquera, then 1982, which was the founding of the DO. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought it was important to say that.
Yeah, but it's true. These people thought always in bottled wine and in quality wine.
Yeah.
Well, for Protos 27 is so special because we have made in the past several trials to select the plots, the vineyards more who fits better for that we wanted to launch. Protos 27, what we wanted to show in the bottle is as much fresher as we can. So lots of fruit, hyper fruit, but as fresher as you can, avoiding vegetal, so with good ripeness, but avoiding over ripening. Okay, so and also in the mouth, well, it has good concentration, but in an elegant way, and always being very drinkable, because it was conceived a wine to be drinked young. More or less young.
I think you could age this quite nicely. I think it's drinkable now, but I would give that a bit more time. I think I'm right in saying that all of the fruit for this wine, even though your winery is in Valladolid, which is one of the 4 sub-regions really of Ribera del Duero, your winery is in Peñafiel, which is in Valladolid. All of the grapes for this come from Burgos, which is the central and probably the most important part of Ribera del Duero. Is that correct?
Yeah, because in fact, all the trials shows us that the fresher and higher areas of Burgos give to us a fresher fruit, and we want to avoid an overwhelming wine.
Yeah,
we want to have a more drinkable wine and happy, but serious, concentrated. For that, the vineyards are over 50 years old, and with very low yields, but always looking for this balance in the vineyards to don't have over ripeness and to have a slow maturation and to have a fresh fruit.
And are they mostly on the north side of the river? Yeah, in Burgos.
We are on the north side of the river, La Horra, Roa, Quintana Mambirgo, and South Hills too. So good ripeness, but looking for a soft wine.
It's interesting that I only realized this today, and I've written about it in my report, that if you look at the Duero River and the Ebro River, so Ebro is obviously in Rioja, and it's the river that runs through Rioja, and the Duero runs through Ribera. In Rioja, on the north side of the river, you mostly get limestone soils, and on the south side, you get clay. And in Ribera del Duero, it's the opposite. So on the north side of the Duero River, you get more clay, often with a limestone base, obviously. Whereas on the south side, you get much more limestone. So it's an interesting comparison if you want to compare Rioja and the Ebro River with Ribera and the Duero River. That you get those. It's almost a reverse image, if you like, or an inverse image of the two.
In fact, in Ribera, actually, we are all looking for fresher plots of vineyards, because well, the climate, the struggle, the change, the cambio climático is a reality, and in warm years and not wet, the wines are not, they don't have that balance and that gentle texture or structure. So
clay will give you more water retention, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Than limestone. Yeah, or certainly than
stone. But clay also in draft periods, they get very bad for the vines.
Yeah. In drought, you mean? Yeah, drought.
Yeah, in drought.
So clay doesn't retain water. It's basically how much water you have, I suppose. Yeah.
When it loses the water, is very hard for the vineyards, because vineyards in clays, normally the roots are not deep, not very deep, because that's normally they find water easily. When it's a severe drought, it's quite difficult. So for that, we prefer loose earth with some clay, but we prefer the limestone.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so you don't like too much clay, yeah? Yeah. We should also mention while we're here that you work with Pascal Chatonnet, and Pascal Chatonnet is a French consultant, and he works for both Protos, which is the biggest producer in the region, and he's also a consultant to Vega Sicilia, which is probably the most famous producer in the region, alongside Pingus, Dominio Pingus. And I think that he's a fantastic influence on you guys as well, and he's a great sounding board, as we say in English. I really enjoyed that wine. I think it's fantastic. Very, very good wine. 2020, funny vintage. I mean, some people love it, some people don't. It was, there was rain during the vintage. There was a kind of before and after, but I think the best 2020s are nice. Yeah.
Yeah. 2020 was difficult vintage. In this case, for low yielded vines, it's easier on all vines, because was regulated, but was a an abundant harvest. Lots of rain, like a 25% over normal rains. It's true that mostly in April at the beginning of the cycle, and quite warm vintage, but was difficult because, for example, in young vines, we have excess of production. So more herbal, more vegetal.
Good, thank you. And it's nice to have a reminder you guys were there in 1927, right? Fantastic.
And in a very few years, the centenary.
The winery. Okay, thank you, Pedro, for your fantastic comments and insights into that harvest in particular and the history of the winery. Thank you very much. I learned a lot there. That was great. And finally, last but not least, we're going to do a Verdejo. Now, we could have shown you a sort of tutti frutti stainless steel fermented Verdejo, but instead of which, I thought, let's show you something completely different. So some of you will never have tasted anything like this from Rueda before, and I'm going to mention Laura and Miguel, who are going to join us now from Pilares to tell us about the wine. Hi guys, thanks for waiting.
Hi, how are you?
Package. Just show us the bottle, because the bottle is beautiful.
So let me introduce you a little bit first. I'm Laura, I'm the export manager of the winery, and I may talk a little bit about the winery. Bodega Tres Pilares is a family-run winery. It was founded, it's quite young. It was founded in 2013 by three brothers. They are Jaime, Eustaquio, and Antonio. They were vine growers, and they decided just to to close the circle in 2013 and start doing their own wines, just trying to add value to the Verdejo in the area. The vines are, the vineyards are located mainly in La Seca. This is Miguel, who is going to explain later on the wine.
Hello, Miguel.
Hi,
he's having a good time. Look, that's what we like. And Miguel is smiling.
So as I was saying, the project of Tres Pilares is completely based in the vineyard, in the area of La Seca, that for us is quite important, just to highlight a little bit the area inside Dio Rueda, because it's the highest point, or we are in one of the highest points of the region of Dio Rueda.
Just tell us, how high are you, Laura, there?
It's around 800 meters above sea level. Yeah. So all the vineyards that we use to make this wine are just bush vines. So we are one of the wineries that spend much longer time just doing manual harvests in the area. So it's quite important just for us focus on the terroir. We have in the terroir, there are big stones that keep the ripeness of the vineyards quite well, and we also have some clay below the stone, so it's perfect just to the ripening. So the wine that we are going to taste, that Miguel will explain to you right now, is something completely different about what you expect from a Verdejo of the region. But that's one of the main philosophies of the winery, is just to make extreme vinifications in order to show that Verdejo is not only just fresh, fruity, easygoing wine. Is just something that might develop quite well.
Just tell us a little bit about the history of Rueda before 1980, because this will help to introduce this wine in a way. But what styles of wine was Rueda making before that?
Yeah, the point is, in that time, the kind of wines that we were doing here were more based in Palomino, and it was the Pálido, the Dorado, and this kind of Solera wines that some of them, they were fortified and adding alcohol as well.
Sort of sherry style wines in a way, yeah?
We may say like this. And indeed, it's set or just around the historic details that we have, is that one of the wines that there were in the boats, in the ships of Colum, when he discovered America, they were this kind of Solera wines that we.
You're joking? What, from Rueda?
Yes, from this.
So this is one of the first wines to go to the New World. Yeah.
They say that together with the Tinta de Toro of Toro wines, that were the two wines. That's it's a kind of legend. I'm not sure because I was not there.
Well, he took País as well, which is Listan Prieto. No? That's what they planted, allegedly. Who knows?
Yeah, that's it says. So the point here is that Verdejo is for us, it's a novel grape variety that may develop in so many different things. So that's the key of this wine. And historically, it's just or now the most modern thing that you may do in a winery is just go back and see what was doing in the area, and that's one of the things that we did. Of course, we are using just a young person as Miguel is, just with a lot of curiosity, just trying to do new things and doing a lot of trials every day in order to see how long we can go with our grapes.
So Miguel, tell us about this wine, because there's no velo, there's no floor on it, right?
No, not velo in this wine. Okay, in this wine, I'm trying to make an oxidation, but not a typical oxidation like before we make in Rueda and with velo and then biology aging. And I think that biology aging, it's not so good for the characteristics of the Verdejo in this moment. Okay, when people makes engines with velo, the grapes of this area are so different than the grapes of this area in this moment. Verdejo in that moment can't support a biology engine, because I think todo lo que
it's always his opinion. It's just how he understands.
my opinion.
How
Okay.
he understands.
He thinks the vinico doesn't like flawed. Yeah, it doesn't like biological aging.
For the verdejo, for
This verdejo.
for the verdejo that we have in our winery, or the vineyards that we have, because it's just most of the soleras that they are in the area are more verdejo blend with palomino. That it's something completely different. So here is just about focusing in verdejo as a grape variety and just make kind of extreme vinifications. So here is not about looking for the biological aging. It's more just showing with the oxygen how the grape variety may develop.
So what do? You just don't top the barrel, yeah? You leave a little bit of air in the barrel, yeah?
Always oxygen in the barrel, and the aging is about 5 years.
Yeah.
It's an oxidative aging without velo.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't remove and we don't
Fill.
You don't add. Yeah. Okay. And the velo doesn't form, right?
Okay. Yeah,
It's probably too dry, isn't it? In Rueda?
Yeah, it's the only one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's the only one. And the point is that in order to avoid the velo, the flowers, just remove the barrels and just avoid just getting the velo. If not, if we don't move them, if we don't move them, the velo will come.
Yeah, but I only a ver cómo lo digo. Solo quiero que no se cree el velo, pero que se oxide sin removerla al día.
So the point here is just to keep the wine with the lees and the oxygen and avoid the velo. We want everything apart from the velo.
If I remove the lees, I can't get this oxidation.
Okay? And I think it's a very gentle oxidation. It's in English we say oxidative rather than oxidative.
That's
exactly. I mean, I tasted this wine when these samples were sent to me, and I just think it's unbelievable. I think it's a absolutely delicious wine. I think it's so effortlessly complex and brilliant. I think everybody loves it. Everybody's liking that. What would you match it with? That's a very good question. What would you match this with?
I think that this wine that I think that is a old wine, or the oldest una forma antigua de hacer vino.
It's
an old style wine, an old way of making it. Yeah.
The best maridaje is with the new food, new cocina,
the high gastronomy that we have.
Nouvelle cuisine.
Nouvelle cuisine or Japanese food.
That's good. I like that.
As well.
With umami and stuff like that, yeah? I mean, somebody's saying almonds and things like that. Salted almonds would be nice. I mean,
wines with salty food. And just in my opinion, it's also perfect with any kind of jamón from Salamanca. It's a guijuelo that will be okay.
Just tell us, Laura, who is the importer of this wine? UK?
Yeah, we are just. This is a wine that it has a very limited production, and we sold it only by allocation. And it's in that moment the only one is the Oxford Wine Company that they are in Oxford. Yeah.
So we're lucky to be tasting this. And it's so good. Not only do I want to drink, I think I want to wear it. I almost want to put it on my face.
That's great. That's great to hear.
I don't know about you guys. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, because when you try to do something that is quite apart or different that the regular is, sometimes that you are a little bit scared about the reaction, and we understand that this is not a wine for everybody, but it's a very passionate wine lovers that are looking for this kind of wine.
And I think it's a wonderful kind of extra dimension to Rueda. I mean, Rueda's got all sorts of styles. And I just think it's almost an extreme style, but I love it. I mean, I thought this was stunning, this wine. It's very interesting. People are saying almond tart, Bakewell tart. You probably know what Bakewell tart is. We only eat that in England. Roast chicken. People are having all sorts of things. They have a niche wine, aperitif. I mean, people are coming with all sorts of different suggestions, from desserts to roast chicken to aperitif, right?
Yeah,
that's a good thing, though, isn't it?
We are mostly working with this wine here in Spain and in the countries that we are exporting to, with high-end gastronomy wines, restaurants.
That's very
that
good.
look
Listen,
for
I'm going to be in
very-
Rueda in January, so make sure there's a bottle there to taste when I get there, right?
Yeah, of course you will. Don't worry. Yeah.
I'm coming in
For sure.
January, so don't sell it all before I get there, because I'd like to taste it again. Okay, any questions? Favorite wine of the night? Sorry, we've gone over time. Thank you. Please vote, everybody. Can I vote? No, I can't vote. There we go. I'm not going to vote because I thought they're all great. I did. I thought all those wines are. I thought in their own way, those are all wonderful wines.
No, I don't.
You can vote. You got to vote for yourself.
All of our if all of our panelists want to join as well, join back in. Please do at this point. Feel free. I think it's been quite interesting. I mean, I really enjoyed the. I think there's been a theme of altitude has definitely been a theme here, and I think there's also been a theme of kind of older vineyards. And I guess I mean, Tim, you've been traveling all over the world seeing wines like this. I mean, what do you think about this kind of trend, and how is it a trend? Is it sort of long term, and how do you think it impacts wines? Like, what's your kind of thoughts on?
Are you saying altitude or old vines, or both?
Both.
No, I think they're both. I think they're both obviously advantages that Castilla y León has. I mean, I think not the oldest vines I've ever seen, but some of the oldest vines would be in Soria, on sandy soils, which obviously survive phylloxera, in Ribera del Duero, which would be 200 years old, probably. I've seen older vineyards in Rías Baixas and in the Canary Islands, but not many. You know, I think that the old vines is a huge, as you say, a kind of plus point, really, a trump card for the region. And altitude. I mean, I think altitude and that diurnal variation is what makes all of these wines fresh and exciting. I mean, obviously I was lucky enough to choose them and taste them, but I really like those wines, and I hope everybody enjoyed them as much as I did, both choosing them and talking about them. And what a great group of people to enjoy the wines with. Thank you, winemakers, for talking in English. For many of you, it's your second or possibly even third language. And for doing such an amazing job. Thank you, Richard, for organising, and thank you guys for joining. I hope, as I said at the beginning, that most of you got your samples. For those of you who had one bottle broken, I'm sorry, we'll try and get a replacement bottle to you so that you get that. Richard, over to you to close. Do you want to close?
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, no, just to thank you as well, Tim. It's been a really, I mean, it's been really entertaining. I think this one, I think we can see here by the spread here, like there's so many different wines, so many different styles, and people are loving them all in different ways. So it's great selection from you, and I think it's awesome to taste it in so many different regions, 5 different regions today. It's been wicked. Back office, thank you, Ali. Really appreciate the work you're doing back there.
Thanks, Ali.
And thanks everyone for attending. Really appreciate you coming, and I hope you've really enjoyed it.
And I'm sorry we went over time, but I hope it was worth it.
Appreciate it. Well, and thank you to Castilla y León regional body. Gustavo, I've seen you in the audience. Thank you very much. Abrazo a todos, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Gracias. Wonderful evening.
Thank you for you.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.